Marquez was off balance again. Now gets his feet back and tries to roar back to nail Pacquiao with the right hand. Oh!
Welcome back to Boxing Battles. In today's episode, we are going back in time to look at 10 brutal one-punch knockouts that will never be forgotten.
And he's down again and in serious trouble.
When any fighter steps foot into a ring, they have one goal in mind, which is to knock their rival out. Boxing is one of the only sports in the world where we want to see the opponent end up unconscious from a devastating blow. In any other sport, this would be considered barbaric, but in the world of martial arts, this is considered the ultimate prize. A brutal knockout is the most vicious way to end a boxing match, yet it's the outcome we crave to see every time. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Here on Boxing Battles, we take you for a blast in the past and reminisce about some of boxing's greatest moments.
It's over. That's it. It is over. That's it. Evander Holyfield has never been knocked out. All the battles, all the wars, and Riddick Bowe is the one to do it.
In 2013, Gennady Golovkin scored one of his most painful knockouts to watch when he broke Matthew Macklin's ribs with one of the most damaging body shots ever seen. Golovkin was an unbeaten, truly feared middleweight destroyer who was approaching his peak. He amassed a host of explosive knockouts on his resume, but the mainstream media were unconvinced as to how good he exactly was. Birmingham-born fighter Macklin had failed in his two previous world title attempts, but was a game fighter, and victory for Triple G would go some way to determining where he was in his career. The match was set up to be Triple G's toughest test yet, but instead turned out to be one of his easiest. Golovkin simply overwhelmed Macklin and ended the fight with an absolutely sickening left-hand body shot that crumpled his opponent to the canvas. The fight was over from the moment the shot landed, as Macklin didn't even make an attempt to rise from the mat.
Macklin's not going to pack it in and lay down. Golovkin's going to have to do what he has to do. Like that, to get Macklin out of here.
Puts Macklin down.
There are very few fighters that possess the kind of freakish knockout power that when you taste it, you know you're not getting up and probably need to be speedily taken to the hospital. Julian "The Hawk" Jackson is definitely one of those freaks and is regarded by many as one of the hardest punchers in boxing history. On June 16, 1990, at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Jackson took a 2-0 fight against Wayne Powell on the undercard of Mike Tyson versus Henry Tillman. The fight was at a 162 pounds catch weight as Jackson prepped for a permanent move up to middleweight. Midway through round 4, Jackson unleashed a crunching right hand that had Powell down and out cold. The ref did not even bother to count as Powell laid on the canvas, gazing into space.
Oh, there's a right hand. He won't get up from this one, I don't think. It's up to 3 and 4 and 5. He didn't even bother to count him out. He could have counted to 20. Wayne Powell is not getting up from this one. Dr. Flip Romansky in there to take a look at him.
Hesam Rockman vs. Olan Muskayev was a heavyweight professional boxing match contested between the WBA number 4 ranked contender Muskayev and the IBF number 6 ranked contender Rockman. The two up-and-coming contenders were recovering from defeats to David Tua, who had knocked them both out while behind on the cards. Rockman was still highly rated and expected to challenge for championships despite his controversial loss just under a year before, while Muskayev was a dangerous threat to the top order lurking in the shadows, having amassed 7 consecutive wins since his defeat to Tua back in 1997. It promised to be an even encounter, a true 50-50 fight. In the 8th round of the heavyweight bout, Rockman, who was hurt earlier in the round by Muskayev, was the victim of a ferocious overhand right that sent him flying through the ropes, across the announcer's table where Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant, and Roy Jones Jr. were sitting, and then onto the concrete floor at ringside. Monitors and equipment spilled on top of the fallen fighter, as Lampley took a knee next to Rockman. Merchant and Jones stood just a few feet behind him in near disbelief. A number of convention center security staff rushed to cordon off the area just at the time mayhem erupted in the audience near ringside. As medical personnel tended to Rockman, who still lay flat on his back, Merchant caught the scuffle brewing just a few feet from where he stood and remarked, "There's a battle royal going on out here in the crowd." Police were now on the scene and quickly rushed in to help the security staff and restore order. After sharing the ring for a controversial 12-round war in December 2016, British heavyweights Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora battled it out again 2 years later in their highly anticipated rematch. This time the body snatcher left no stone unturned by producing a clinical and conclusive finish. In the 11th round, Whyte was looking by far the fresher man. Chisora was deducted a second point in the early stages of the round for an apparent elbow during a clinch and then lost focus. Losing focus while in the ring with Whyte was always going to be dangerous, and Chisora found this out the hard way when a titanic left hook clayed him flat out on the canvas. The bout was waved off immediately, and it took some time before the defeated man was back up, sitting on his stool. Despite the worrying moments, he was ultimately okay and walked back to his dressing room.
So that'll give him a bit of energy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good night. It is all over in the 11th round. Dillian Whyte knocks Derek Chisora out.
On November 18, 2017, WBO bantamweight champions Olani Tete made very quick work of the number 3 WBO contender Sibani Sogonia by stopping him in the first 11 seconds of round 1, treating fans to the quickest ever knockout in a world title fight. The fight wasn't supposed to be that kind of a mismatch. Gonia looked like he wasn't properly warmed up and ready for the kind of firepower that Tete was bringing that early on in the contest. The South African southpaws circled each other at the bell, and then Tete spotted a gap in Gonia's defenses and jumped in with a sweeping right hook that swept the challenger off his feet and knocked him out cold. Incredibly, it was the first punch of the fight and it was all over. The referee waved the count off at 4, and the bout was over in 11 seconds. presently the fastest world title fight knockout in boxing history.
Oh, and that's the reason why. Goodness me, first punch of the fight, and it's all over. He's knocked him unconscious.
In the summer of 1990, Chris Eubank Sr. was a rising star in the world of boxing. British fight fans were still not too sure what to make of the monocle-wearing middleweight from Brighton. But in time he would become a genuine star. On the hunt for a shot at Nigel Benn, who Eubank had called out, insulted, and vowed to defeat.
I proved myself, boy.
You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right?
Oh, God.
The 160-pound contender featured in a fight on terrestrial TV against an 11-4 opponent named Reginald dos Santos, who did not have one seriously notable win on his record. This was a mismatch on paper and a fight to just get some extra rounds in, but it did not even accomplish that. Literally, the first punch Eubank threw was a thunderous right hand that crashed into dos Santos, knocking him down to the canvas. Dos Santos was stunned and did not know what had just hit him. He had no chance when it came to beating the 10 count. Meanwhile, as dos Santos was being tended to in the background, Eubank celebrated by striking a pose and stared emotionless at the camera in what would later become an iconic image of the eccentric superstar. He may never be looked upon as a legitimate heavyweight due to his diminutive stature, but on August 22, 2015, Maris Briedis showed he can compete with anyone in terms of his firepower. The unheralded Briedis is actually listed as a cruiserweight, given that he is only 6'1" and that he weighs just over 200 pounds. He is probably better suited to the lighter weight class, fighting in Grozny, Chechen Republic, Russia, against German heavyweight Manuel Char. The natural cruiserweight produced a picturesque one-punch knockout with just 5 seconds remaining in the 5th round. Lying face down on the crisp canvas, with rope burns across his face, Char probably thought little of his 3-inch height and 30 pounds weight advantage. Although Roberto Duran's intimidating persona had begun to severely diminish, momentum was now in his favor after a forgivable loss to middleweight champion Marvelous Marvin Hagler. A superfight triumph back at 154 pounds would cement the return of Hands of Stone. With that in mind, Duran set his sights on Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Whenever two great champions meet face to face in the ring for the first time, there is always expectation for a thrilling battle. However, unfortunately this affair would not live up to expectations, as after all of the hype, the Hitman destroyed Duran with a single right-hand bomb that ended the fight in the 2nd round.
That's it. Stop the fight. Stop the fight. It's over.
Carlos Padilla
Out before he hit the canvas.
That's all. This fight is over.
If there was ever one man in boxing you could always count on to put on a show, it was Roy Jones Jr. With his flashy style but questionable defense, there was always a chance that someone was going to end up looking foolish. On May 15, 2004, Jones faced Antonio Tarver for the 2nd time in their highly anticipated rematch. The two men had previously fought each other on November 8, 2003, in which Tarver was able to deliver several punching combinations through the course of his first fight against Jones and fought a closely contested fight.
He lands the left hand right through the middle of the guard.
In the rematch, Jones learned the hard way that bad habits, such as keeping his hands down and relying on quickness to avoid punches, no longer worked, and he was the victim of a brutal second-round knockout. It was the first time Jones had ever been stopped in his career. Arguably no single punch in boxing history is as monumental as the right hand delivered by 45-year-old George Foreman to regain the heavyweight crown, 2 full decades after he lost it to the great Muhammad Ali. Trailing behind on points and only minutes away from both defeat and the likely end of his career, Big George finally delivered a right cross that crashed on the champion's chin and put him down and out. One perfectly timed right hand had changed boxing history forever. The heavyweight legend put himself into another stratosphere by regaining the World Heavyweight Championship at the age of 45 and elevated himself from an exceptional heavyweight champion to a true boxing icon that will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new episodes about boxing's greatest moments. Thanks for watching.